The Edgar Thomson Steel Plant sits between four boroughs: Braddock, North Braddock, East Pittsburgh, and North Versailles. It is the oldest steel mill in the region and the last mill that is still operating. But something kind of strange happened in the last decade. U.S. Steel leased land on the Edgar Thomson site to Marion Oil and Gas to establish wells for hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, a process through which oil or gas is extracted from the ground by injecting a mixture of water, chemicals, and sand at very high pressure. Why was this steel company trying to get into the business of fracking? Well, actually, the steel and fossil fuel industry have a shared history in the Pittsburgh area. In the 1750s, the white settlers of the area that would become Pittsburgh started mining into hillsides and struck coal. Anthracite coal deposits were abundant and just below the ground. In fact, the hillside across from Fort Pitt was first called Coal Mountain. The coal mines and proximity to the river put this area at an advantage. It was much easier to mine the coal and cart it a few hundred yards down the hillside to barges than in other industrializing areas where the coal had to be carted miles to the nearest river or canal. The Edgar Thomson Steel Plant, built by Carnegie McCandless and Company in 1874, came about as a result of this combination of coal and river transport. As the coal mining and steel industry increased production, the air quality began to decline. At the time, pollution of the environment was not viewed as a negative effect. Many saw smoky skies as a sign of progress and prosperity. However, many also opposed it. In the 1880s, the gas industry expanded rapidly, if only for a short while. After building a well on his property, George Westinghouse drilled into an extremely high-pressure gas deposit, which was estimated to be flaring at over 20 million cubic feet of gas per day. When the emerging gas industry caught wind of high-pressure wells in the region, it launched Pittsburgh into a decade-long gas boom which reduced air pollution as steel and other industries transitioned to gas as an industrial fuel. Unfortunately, gas didn't stay long in Pittsburgh, primarily driven by the steel industry's movement back to coal for its economy and stability of supply. Additionally, oil and gas deposits began to dry up in western Pennsylvania, but the railroad and river infrastructure that supported the coal, steel, and other heavy industries remained. In the 1940s, during the war effort, Pittsburgh's steel output ballooned, including production at the Edgar Thomson Steel Plant in Braddock. This marked the beginning of a 20-year period of the worst polluted and smoky skies in Pittsburgh history. The 1960s saw the rise of the environmental movement, marked at the national level with the signing of the Clean Air Act in 1963 and the establishment of the EPA in 1970. By this time, the steel industry in the region was beginning to decline, for a wide range of reasons, from reduced steel demand to a more competitive global economy. After decades of investing in infrastructure and supplying union jobs, albeit often with exploitative labor practices, the steel industry shrank to a shell of what it once was. But in the early 2000s, western Pennsylvania began drilling for gas once again, when a new probing technology was used to examine the Marcellus Shale formation deep in the earth. The Marcellus Shale was accessed by fracking wells which are up to 10,000 feet deep, with lateral arms that extend thousands of more feet. At a territorial level, the shale formation spans across most of western Pennsylvania and beyond. It is the largest natural gas formation in North America, and yet it is completely invisible to us. However, across Pennsylvania, the infrastructural, social, and political arms of this system have very real effects on the land and the people. Each yellow point is a fracking well drilling deep into the earth. Seen in the landscape, the wells appear isolated, yet they are connected to a regional system of pipelines and trucking routes, creating an intricate web of physical infrastructure. When we zoom into the region of western Pennsylvania, these infrastructural networks become more clear. The pipelines, highways, rail lines, refining facilities, and cracker plants all contribute to the network of petrochemical toxicants. At a level of social networks and movements, we can see growing resistance and environmental stewardship persistently opposing and pressuring the systems of extraction. People have been protesting in the streets, online, near the fracking pads and in Harrisburg. This soft infrastructure of resistance and protests has led to new laws being written in Harrisburg, fracking pads decommissioned, or in the case of the Edgar Thompson site, the corporations pursuing fracking are taken to court. Braddock, North Braddock, and the other boroughs of the Mon Valley experience all of these intangible systems of toxic policies that continue to promote extractive infrastructural practices on a daily basis, all under the banner of economic growth. However, social resistance and community stewardship have strong roots in Braddock. There are many conflicting views of fracking. Some believe it is the right kind of development for the area. A proposal for fracking was first introduced in the North Braddock community in 2014, when the Grandview Golf Course and some local landowners leased the land rights for gas drilling. It is clear that the steel and fracking industries strongly support each other by requesting permits to implement gas drilling in Braddock. Although they are aware of the harm that would come to the community, it seems they believe the benefits will outweigh the costs. Different levels of administration also have conflicting views of fracking. Many advocate for fracking, seeing it as a stimulus for the local economy. This attitude is also supported at the state level, with many subsidies allocated to the fracking industry. Yet, research reports from environmental organizations and academic institutions has shown that while fracking may bring short-term economic benefits, this kind of profit is not stable nor sustainable, but the harm that fracking will bring to residents around the wells is inevitable and irreversible. Meanwhile, some local politicians stand with communities to fight fracking by supporting the grassroots organizations. On a higher level, planning tends to look for more restrictions on fracking and development, for instance requiring planning environmental assessments or urging updates to zoning codes and local agencies. Alongside a strong network of actors that are continually fighting, protesting, and working against practices of extraction and environmental degradation, North Braddock Residents for Our Future successfully eliminated the threat of fracking in the spring of 2021, writing one more chapter in the ongoing narrative of Braddock and North Braddock's history.